Resurgent India Knowledge Series presents live webinar on challenges to overcome for a successful energy transition. Moderator Mr. K. Gupta, Director, Resurgent India Limited. Eminent speakers Mr. Ankit Kapoor, CEO and co-founder, SolarFix. Mr. Pranay Kumar, Executive Director, REPL. CA Shipra Rungta, Founder of ProFinFlix, Consultants and Consulting CFO to MSMEs. Mr. Karan Kalra, CEO and Head of Solar, Solis Energy Private Limited.
Good evening, friends. I'm again your host K. Gupta here. I'm a director in research in India and also director of Association for Financial Advisor of India. So we have conducted more than 200 webinars under the series of Research in India and Association for Financial Advisor of India. Besides other webinars we conducted or conferences we conducted with all the chambers in India. So today's subject is very important subject which we are talking about. Challenging to overcome for successful energy transactions. I think these are the subject of the days. Everybody is talking about the renewable energies, capacity increasing. So I will come back to you on that respect. I'm just telling you why we have an eminent speaker with us. So all biodata which they have already given to you, supplied to you. Mr. Ankit Kapoor will join shortly with us, and CA Shipra Rungta is there, and Mr. Karan Kalra is there with us, and Pranay Kumar is with us. All the eminent speakers under the fields. So we are more than 400 sessions with us, beside the YouTube and other electronic medias. So people are appreciating all the webinars which we have conducted under the series of Research in India. And on the demand of the public, so we have decided to have this important virtual webinar, which is, I think, will be benefited with the experience of our eminent speakers. Renewable energy capacity, which was 2014, was 35 WV. GW, which has been increased up to 174.53 GW as on today. And it is also envisaged by 2030. It is going to have 500 GB, for which some challenges will also be there. It is also envisaged that the carbon intensity should be cut by 45%, and the generations of the renewable energy should increase by 50% by 2030 and achieve net zero emissions by 2070. For economic growth, efforts aim to reduce import deficiency, provide clean energy, and decouple emissions. And there are so many challenges what we are talking about to achieve such ambitious goal. Either we are talking about the technical challenges that mean intermittency of the renewable energy storage, grid infrastructure upgradations, and energy storage. We are talking about the economic challenge also, high upfront cost, energy subsidy, and job displacement. Social challenge is also there, just like public acceptance and energy equity. Then the climate justification is also required for that. Then regarding the policy framework, policy and regulatory challenge is also there. That is lack of policy framework, inconsistent policies, international cooperations. For all such things, trillion of rupees is required. Whether we are going to what is our goal to have a 500 GW by 2030, and to achieve the 50% of the generation under the renewable energy. So we are going to discuss all aspects, what we are talking about. The major key discussion point, which we have put up in our agenda items, is scaling up the renewable energy investment, policy framework for accelerating energy transmissions, role of public-private partnership, and balancing legacy dependency and renewable integrations. So these are the major key points, key discussion points, which we are going to discuss in a length at the outset. I am requesting CA Sipra Rungta. Madam, you know the public-private partnership. In infrastructure, in every aspect, it's play a very important role because the money is the main things. So trillion of rupees is required for that. And what is your opinion to achieve a renewable energy goal? What we have spelled out? How the private partnership, public partnership can play a role for to achieve that thing. The major issue is what are the goals and how it can help to achieve the goals. I hand over to Madam Rongta. Madam Rongta, please. No voice, madam, no voice. Your voice is not there. Your voice is not there, madam. Unmute कीजिए इसको. हाँ, yes, please. जरा आप set कर लीजिए. I am coming to you again. Okay, you set your voice. I am now coming to Karan Kalra. He is CEO and head of the solar Insulage Engineering Private Energy Private Limited. So major aspect, Mr. Kalra, is to address the India rural energy need how a smaller or a decentralized solar installation can solve the issue. Because major aspect in the rural areas, renewable energy can play a very important role in rural places. How is smaller? What is your opinion? Whether a smaller and decentralized solar installation can solve the problem for that. Now you hand over to Mr. Kalra. Kalra, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I hope my audio is clear.
You are audible,
And-
sir. You are audible, sir. You are audible.
Great. Thank you so much for having me on the panel. I would love to contribute to this. Now, first, I don't know if everybody is aware what do we exactly mean by decentralized solar. So decentralized solar goes by another name that is distributed solar.
You are right.
So any solar installation that goes behind the meter or basically is installed where the consumption is done right there and then, that qualifies as decentralized solar. So all the rooftop solar that you see across industries, across residences, that qualifies as decentralized solar. You see carports, you see microgrids, all of them qualify as decentralized solar. Now, coming to the point of decentralized solar for rural India, we need to understand what is the problem that they are facing. Now, the biggest problem that they're facing is the non-availability of grid. Electricity is very, very important for everyone. All of us understand that. And especially for the weaker section of the society that really needs to get uplifted. They need to have quality electricity with them so that they can also, move out in the sense of just moving out of their environment. Not particularly physically moving out, but moving out in the emotional quotient environment there. And renewable energy with coming up of small microgrids in and around distributed solar, it improves a lot of things. I mean, the list goes on and on, but I would like to enlist at least 4 to 5 of the key things that help in that. First is that it empowers the rural communities. It empowers the rural communities in the way that you have job creations right there at the rural level. If you want a power plant, a small microgrid, or a rooftop solar coming up there, you need people who can install that. So it creates job opportunities there. That is point number one. And once the plant is installed, you need people to operate and maintain it professionally. Again, the upskilling of people at the rural level can be done, and it helps them gaining job opportunities in that scenario also. That is point number one. Second number point, it improves the energy access to the rural part. Now, lately we got to hear that the last village in India got electrified a few years back. Now it's almost 75 years since independence, 80 years since independence. I mean, we're still trying to electrify the 100% of our community. That is a big question mark on how fast we should have been progressing. And there was a village in Bihar that got electrified in 2014 with the aid of an NGO by setting up a 100 kilowatt microgrid there. And the people there got electricity after 30 years. I mean, they were without access to any electricity. So something like a microgrid, which is a part of decentralized solar, helped 2,400, 2,500 households there to come out of the darkness. It reduced the reliability on burning kerosene oil, burning diesel generators, running diesel generators, burning diesel, and that much. Again, it becomes another point that is very important is that it is cost effective also. Since we talk about utility scale solar, whatever figures Gupta sir was saying that we've attained this much gigawatt of renewable energy, a lot of that, almost 70-75% of that is due to the utility scale solar, which is multi-gigawatt, multi-megawatt scale solar parks getting set up in the country. Whereas the smaller section, the rooftop or the distributed decentralized solar was only around 25-26%. Now that 25-26%, since it does not bear the burden of getting connected to the grid, you do not have to lay down, high voltage level power lines to get it connected to the grid. You consume it at a lower LT level only. So it has a much lower capex as compared to on a per kilowatt apple to apple comparison. If we do it, it has a much lower capex in some cases. So it improves the cost efficiency of the household. It makes it lessens the electricity burden of a household, of an industry, of a commercial enterprise, everybody there. And something like another point that is very noteworthy to mention is the agriculture sectors, like the agriculture sector, they get to gain a lot from this. So all of us have heard that the farmers really don't get electricity to water their fields. They don't get the electricity to power their pump sets. Now we've seen a lot of solar powered pump sets come up in the rural sector that have really eliminated this problem to a huge extent. Now we've seen, I'm being part of this industry, I've seen a lot of benefit directly getting to the farmers in this sector, eventually prospering the agriculture sector as a whole. And again, the last but not the least, sustainability. I mean, you're eliminating fuels like kerosene, fuels like diesel generators, and all of them, and you're going transitioning towards clean energy, even at the rural level, even at the micromost level. It really helps in the country's goal of going for complete renewable, what we are targeting to attain by 2070. So decentralized solar is of course going to play a major role in that, and the rural India is going to be a major beneficiary of that.
Mr. Kalra, I think you are the helm of share of the EPC companies.
Yeah.
More than 20-year experience in the fields. So what you are talking about the energy storage and the grid infrastructure upgradation, that is the major issue. How do you feel it? Because you are a EPC, so much experience, I think you are the right person to be asked for this question. The storage energy, I think how it can be done. And second issue will be grid infrastructure, how it can be upgraded. Have any view on that, Mr. Kalra, for you?
Absolutely, sir. I'll love to talk on that. So all of us know that renewables are intermittent, right? It works to a level till it hasn't passed a certain scale. You can absorb it into the grid. But once if you're talking about 100% running on renewable, pure renewable is not going to cut it out. we need storage, we need hydrogen, we need multiple factors to come into play. Now, I ventured into renewables in 2013, around that period. So when at that time there was a major push by the government, by the states to shift to renewable. So at this time, the similar push we can sense going towards hydrogen, going towards storage. Now in storage, again, it's actually a catching up game that we're playing because a lot of our neighbors have progressed much further ahead because they have much higher capacities also. And with the pace that India is expanding its renewable technology, in a very short time, we'll be able to see that grid parity will be attained for renewable plus storage projects. That is point number one. And as far as we're talking about the modernization of grids, if I'm correct, that was the second point that you asked. The modernization of grid is of course happening, but we also need to understand that this is a very complex sector, right? You have a lot of stakeholders, uh, and a lot of capital obviously is required for this. So modernization of grid is happening, smart grids are coming up, but it is moving at its own pace. India is a very big country. It is going to take time, and it's not going to happen overnight. But at least we're on the right track. That's what I can assure.
I think, Karna, you have rightly in that respect. Lekin there is a stain, financial stain on the discount. When we are talking about
Of
the
course.
distribution companies,
Hmm.
and whether they are doing a well, because this point is only distribution.
Right.
And distribution is creating a major problem, I think, in India when we are talking about the renewable energy. Because why
Right.
I'm asking you, because you are under EPC. EPC
Sure,
got,
sure.
so I think you can the right person to be answer for this question. How Discom companies are not in a bad shape, they are in a bad shape, and their health position is not good.
So a couple of reasons, sir. A couple of reasons that I can immediately identify. One of them is that the losses that the grids incur here, the power losses, are almost 3 times to any developing country. So if, say, for example, in the West, you'd find a Discom having a operational loss or a distribution loss of say around 5 to 6%, it is almost 17, 18, touching even 20% in some Discoms. So if you talk about 20% of loss in power or in straightforward terms, that is a huge loss. And that anybody, it would become very difficult for anybody to operate on such heavy losses. The second point is that, believe it or not, we agree to it or not, power is a very highly politicized matter. So, free electricity here and there, everybody's offering. So eventually the burden has to fall on somebody, right? So you see I live in Gurgaon, so I see a lot of my friends living in Delhi who are paying as high as 14 rupees a unit. And I see also a lot of friends of mine who have very less consumption and they have the first 300, 400 units as free. So it is incentivizing less power consumption in order to, have a much lesser load of finances, much lesser load on finances. So we need to move the industry out of the political scenario and, let it perform on its own and simultaneously improve the grid infrastructure, which is obviously happening right now. So it is on the right track. That's what I can say.
That means only you can say transaction loss is the main cause for this Discom. They are not incurring losses for that. That is the
That is
main.
one of the major reasons, sir. That is one of the major reasons.
What about the
And
cost factor? What is the cost factor? Cost factor is also very high.
you're talking about the power purchase
Power
cost that they
cost.
have,
Now, I'm talking about installations. They have to
installations of.
distribute. No, I have a something installation machinery or something like that. That is cost factor of the capital goods are very high for that.
Absolutely. So, generally, all the discoms prefer to purchase power and not do their self capex on those power plants. So, you've got exchanges pan India. IEX is Indian Energy Exchange. There's another exchange by the name of Power Exchange of India Limited.
Yes.
And the discoms go there, bid for the power as per their schedule, what their SLDCs give them, and then that power is scheduled. And they buy the power on long-term contracts, say around 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. That's specifically the case in renewables, I can assure. For thermal and for traditional power plants, it's much lower, the power purchase agreement tenure. And so DISCOMs, for example, NTPC is a power generating company. It is setting up power plants and selling to DISCOMs at say around 2.5 rupees, 2.6 rupees a unit. So at 2.6 rupees, the eventual losses and all the overall additional cost of giving freebies, basically gets converted into cross additional surcharge, multiple different factors come into play there. So it eventually lands up at 7-8 rupees a unit to the end user. A typical cost that I might say, it varies again from 5 rupees to 12, 13 rupees anywhere, depending on what strata you are, what is the end usage there, all of those things. So I have seen that the DISCOMs don't really enter into have lately at least stopped entering into incurring capex for setting up power plants per se.
Very nice. I will come back to you. Now I'm coming to Madam
Sure.
again. CA Shimla Rungta. Madam, now you're okay.
I hope now you are able to hear me.
Now it is okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Please tell us what is the role of the private partnership, public-private partnership to achieve the renewable goals. Goals we already set. So how it can be achieved? Have any view on that, Madam?
Thank you so much, sir, for giving this question. And thank you so much for making me a part of this panel discussion. First of all, if we talk about quickly, let me quickly brief what is basically climate financing, because everything we are talking about today, I would say it is all revolving around, let's say, climate financing. So climate financing is nothing but it involves mobilizing public and private financial resources so that this climate change can be addressed. These challenges which are there in the climate change, they can be addressed nicely. Now, how it is done, or let's say what it includes, it is very simple. It is like, one is mitigation, like investment in renewable energy is there, energy efficiency, let's say decarbonization. So this is a mitigation strategies. And the other one I would say is adaptation, like funding of infrastructure, I would say, and then systems to build resilience against climate change. So this is probably two things which we should be consider while we are talking about climate financing. Now, as Gupta sir rightly said, that India is basically targeting, I would say, a figure of 500 gigawatts of renewable capacity by 2030. And if we just talk about today's status, it is just 200 gigawatts. So it's long way to go, and which requires somewhere around not less than $10.1 trillion by 2070 so that we can achieve this target of net zero emissions. Annually, if we just calculate, we require somewhere around 160 to 170 billion dollars, so that this funding of renewable energy projects, this grid upgrades, storage technologies, so it is a huge amount which we require. So definitely government has to work along with the private sector so that they can achieve these targets, and obviously they have to work on their toes. Now, if we talk quickly, if I say public private partnership, which is an acronym as PPP, it has always proven to be an instrumental in driving India's renewable energy transition. You can talk about CBG sector, you can talk about, let's say, solar sector, you can talk about wind energy, you can talk about hybrid model. So anything we go, whenever if we see the case studies like Gujarat solar model is there, whenever the best of both the worlds are together, which I always say that public and private, definitely it comes out to be a different way of any project, different way of handling a project. Why? Because these partnership, they address the critical bottlenecks, which like financing is there, infrastructure is there, and project execution is there. Now, if I just quickly summarize, like what are the key contributions of PPP model? So first is mobilizing investments. The best case study I would say in today's scenario is Gujarat's Rent a Roof program, wherein this PPP initiative enabled private firms to lease public and private rooftops of solar panels installation. And this generated somewhere around 5 megawatts of electricity, and it attracted $12 million in private investment. So private investment was there, and obviously government was there. Now, the how it was fruitful was it addressed the technical and the financial barriers so that quickly everything can be worked on a smooth level. Now this model should be replicated not only in Gujarat, because I think Vadodara has already replicated this model, but the other states should also go for it. Why they are waiting for, let's say, central government to actually emphasize on all these things? Second, I would say the key takeaway is Climate Finance Leadership Initiative, which is in common terms, if we say, we all know it by CFLI. It mobilized somewhere around $6.5 million of renewable energy projects. For example, green hydrogen was there, municipal solar projects was there. So again, it was structured in the form of PPP model. The second take I would say would be risk mitigation. Obviously, when government role is there, it provides a policy clarity, land acquisition support is there, financial guarantees are there, for example, like escrow mechanism for payment security and all. And when I talk about private role here in PPP model, so they execute projects with operational and technical expertise. So we get expertise from private people, and the rest support we get from government. So definitely private PPP model always have a different way of execution of any projects. The third, they always help in accelerating infrastructure development, like Green Energy Corridor, wherein PPP were integral to this project, which enhanced India's grid capacity to integrate renewable energy resources, wherein they minimize the transmission losses and improving the reliability. The fourth, I would say, would be encouraging decentralized solutions. Yes, PPP always supports decentralized renewable energy models. For example, let's say rooftop solar initiative, as I already told you, of Gujarat. So that was one area where they worked on. The second was microgrids, wherein partnership has enabled solar microgrid projects in remote areas, ensuring energy access also, and obviously reducing reliance on centralized grids, I would say. Now, so much we are talking about PPP. Now let's quickly, I can also summarize what are the advantages of this PPP. First and foremost, I would say is financial leverage, wherein PPP, they always attract private capital for large scale projects, which creates a bankable model, because you have that face of large scale private people are there. It could be in form of alternative funding, I would say, like angel investors are there nowadays, venture capitalists are there. They provide a very good platform so that blended finance can be done, which combines both concessional loans, private equity, and grants. So we can have the benefit of all the three, wherein concessional loans from the banks we can avail. We can have private equity, or let's say alternate sources of funds, and also grants which are already there or maybe sanctioned by the government. Second, obviously, efficiency and innovation. Why? Because any private sector technical expertise, they always ensure timely completion of the projects. So this is always done when innovations are there. For example, hybrid tenders, solar and storage. So like these, they improve performance also, and obviously cost effectiveness. They're always they show it. The third I would say is scalability, because once PPP model is replicated, definitely it can be go along with all the other regions also and all the other sectors also. Like if I'm not wrong, the other day I read like Gujarat rooftop solar model is already expanded to Vadodara, and I think Delhi is also all set to take it up. But there is other side of this coin, which says there are some challenges also. The first challenges I would say is regularity uncertainty, because there are many policies, as Gupta sir already pointed out, which are actually not consistent. So if there is inconsistent policy, they can definitely deter this private investment, or let's say PPP model will not work. Secondly, there are always if we just go about the Prapti model is there. There is a website called Prapti, which says how quickly the discoms are repaying the paying back. So you can see the data of each and every state. So there are delayed payments by discoms, and this definitely affects the project viability. And if I say project viability, of course, PPP based models are also there. Thirdly, high capital cost, wherein like, yes, currency and financing risk are very high. Why? Because private investors, if they are investing in these projects, definitely it would lead to a very, very high capital cost. Now, there are some solutions. I will always say, if there is a problem, solutions are always there. First is policy stability, which I always urge each and every government department, whichever it is, that long-term renewable purchase obligations are required. Also, right now, there are transmission charges, like intrastate, if the power is being transmitted, there are charges. So this waiver should be there so that everyone will feel motivated. The second would always, I would recommend is risk guarantees. Like escrow account should be there. So mechanism like escrow account, they always ensure payment security for private developers. The third is capacity building, wherein the local government should be strengthened along with the utility to engage effectively in PPP model. So once both the parties are together, once both the parties are lined up together, so apple to apple if we go about, then only we will be able to take this, I would say, PPP model. Because yes, expanding PPP model, we require broadening PPPs to include emerging sectors like green hydrogen, battery storage, e-mobility. Like there is a partnerships are being now being there in green ammonia production under CFLI, with potential to mobilize billions of investments. Also, municipal level PPP should be encouraged. Like cities can aggregate smaller renewable projects to attract private investments. Integrating digital tools like finance tracking, enhancing tracking the project execution. Then, of course, global collaboration like International Solar Alliance, which Mr. Kalra already pinpointed that nowadays we have International Solar Alliance and everything. So, if we are ready to leverage such platforms, definitely PPP models would work in India. So PPP, I would say, it always takes a pivotal role in reducing T&D losses also, which we know about as transmission and distribution losses. They scale up renewable projects. They ensure that India's energy transition aligns with its ambitious goal, which is, as I already just told some figures. And if we are ready to leverage these successful models and address these implementation challenges, PPP will definitely continue to drive investment, innovations, and sustainability in this India's energy landscape, I would say.
Very nice, madam. What you're talking about, innovations,
Thank you.
sustainability. Because you are providing to end-to-end solutions to the SME sector. Major aspect is economic challenging. What we are talking about, you also have touched that point. The high upfront cost is a major issue. Then there is also a challenge for the job displacement and also energy subsidized. Have any view, because you are the financial person, professional person, and Mr. Karla also pointed out this subsidiary portion. This DISCOM, or you're talking about the who are producing the energy, is facing so many financial problems. Have any view on that respect, Mr. Madam?
Yes, definitely. Because as we say that discoms are also facing many problems. Discoms are facing, and let's say financing. Yes, as I already pointed out, that even financing is a challenge. So yes, we have lot many solutions are there to it. Like if I just try to point out few, the first I would say is, as I already told, that policy enhancement needs first and like that should be taken up on the priority, wherein we require long-term consistency. Like and secondly, I would say localized incentives. Why? Because state level incentives should be expanded nationally to reduce dependence on centralized policy. I am working with CBG also. I'm working in the green hydrogen also. Like solar is also there. So I always see state level people. They always rely on central policies. So it should not be there. Nowadays we are even having new financing models like carbon pricing. So that should be introduced. Right now, if we just see these carbon credit, it is not at all a regulated market. So government should work on it to introduce carbon credits and carbon trading systems so that these emission reductions can be monetized at a quick level. Then we can have impact bonds, wherein launching of green impact bonds can be done tied to specific outcomes like emission reduction targets. Of course, everything can be done only if the people are quick and they're aware. So expand public awareness and participation. Community co-ownership should be there, like offer partial ownership of in renewable energy projects to the local communities, because once these local communities they feel a part of the project, definitely they would I would say this acceptance among them and this equity that would increase. Apart from that, energy cooperative should be formed, like smaller stakeholders like SMEs, I would say in specific, to invest in decentralized energy systems like microgrids, which is a very good can be an area. Then why don't the people, they are ready to leverage digital tools like using of blockchains for transparent tracking of climate finance flows, impact AI driven forecasting tools to predict renewable energy demand and optimize that grid investment accordingly. Nowadays it is a time of AI. On a click of AI you can get good data wherein human brain can quickly take it in and they can analyze it accordingly. Then obviously strengthening global collaborations like International Solar Alliance. We should leverage that, and so that we can attract investments. And obviously, if it is international, will be there with us. International standards and international technical expertise would be there with us. Definitely, we would be at a different scale. Also, cross-border partnership, like we can quickly go for partnerships like advanced economies which have already adopted these practices, best practices in renewable energy integration. So these will be some areas wherein not only India would be increasing. Apart from that, I would say even discoms would be in state. Why? Because once there would be policy as per international standards, everything would be there. Like if I just talk about right now current market of if we say selling price of solar energy, government is giving just I think 2.99, which is rounding off to, let's say approximation is done to rupees 3. As against that, the private, they are ready to give somewhere around 4.5 rupees. When this is the real scenario, why would person go for discom? I have myself checked this Prapti model wherein I saw that many states, they are not repaying this amount back to the stakeholders. So if this will be the, I would say, reluctance, or this will be some behavior of discoms, how would they work on it? And it's not their fault. Basically, it's a vicious circle wherein grants are coming late. Let's say discom is not able to work again. The other way around is free, everything free. Nothing is free. I even it really makes me so irritated why people say free, because nothing in this world is free. Even I always say that even mother does not work for her children free. Why? Because she has an aim. I mean, I never work free for my children. I have an aim because when you're like, I always feel that if my children, their name is high, definitely I would be accolated. So nothing is free. How come electricity or let's say solar thing can be free? So this should be actually cut down, because yes, I would not say central government, it seems that they are working efficiently and very on toes for it, but still it is far, I would say still the goal is far beyond that reach. So they have to work with the private sector, then only they would be in position to quickly go for it.
Very nice, madam. Excellent views what you are talking about. Nothing is free in this world. Everything has a cost for that. And you're also talking about the risk correcting. I think this is a new thoughts. There must be something where the risk should also be granted. Even profit should also be granted. Some insurance company also coming to give a profit guarantee, risk guarantee. Some credit guarantee corporations are available with us for giving the guarantee for that. And you are also talking about the blockchain. I think that is also important aspect. So I will come to you again. Now I welcome Shri Ankit Kapoor. Kapoor sir, thank you very much for your uh, accepting our invitation. He is an executive MBA from USA. While he started his initial renewable company, Electric Fish, his goal was to add value to the nation and hence returned to India to start Treasure. He has successful sold process industrial material in highly competitive market, creating synergy at procurement cycle level. I think, sir, you are the entrepreneur. So I will ask the entrepreneur question from you. As an entrepreneur, to raise a loan, to raise a fund, to raise the equity, or go to the venture capital. So what type of challenges an entrepreneur is facing? And we have any suggestion to our listener, to our entrepreneur who are more than 400 with us beside the YouTubes? Have any view on that, sir? What are the challenges entrepreneur are facing for that? I hand over to Mr. Kapoor. Kapoor sir, unmute कर लीजिए, please.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta, for the warm welcome. And I would also like to apologize. I was a little late in joining this. But I think I will, without further ado, I think I would start my address and probably pivot back to your question by asking a couple of questions, very basic questions in itself. That when we speak about sustainability, or when we speak about clean energy or green markets, is it really sustainable, or is it just showbiz? Is it profits or sustainability? And finally, is it greenwashing or washing green? Dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, my co-panelists, everyone, my name is Ankit Kapoor, and as Gupta ji introduced me, I run a clean energy company called SolarFix, but I am not here today to talk about the company or myself. I am rather here to first answer all your questions, and also give you a little bit of highlight of what is happening in the industry, both at macro micro levels. So Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, he has ignited a spark in the heart of every Indian with his ambitious vision, a vision of a developed India, a self-reliant India, a prosperous India, ladies and gentlemen. But as we stride towards this grand future, a very crucial question that at least I think, echoes the corridors of our conscience, which is, as I said, and the questions that I asked, that is the equation between profit and sustainability really balanced? And to answer that question, I would like to put forth the statement that I also keep generally saying, that no matter how clean or green a solution is, no matter how clean or green a solution is, it's only going to sell if it's commercially viable. And if you also notice the question that I've been put myself in front of, that what is the financing challenge in terms of being an entrepreneur or being a clean energy entrepreneur? So everything really drills down to commercial viability. So I repeat myself that no solution, how clean, green it is or sustainable it is only going to sell if it's commercially viable. And quickly do a roundabout. If I were to ask you a question, that what is the first thing that comes to your mind if you think about sustainability? I know we are already probably running a little late, so I'll drill this down to three major categories. One is that it is a social responsibility. Most of us, at least more than so, think that we have to give back to the environment, we should give back to the society, something that it is a legal mandate, mandated by the government or a state utility. And then maybe it is a social norm. I have to do it because maybe my friend is doing it, my neighbor is doing it. But as I said, and I will pivot back to my statement, we've got it all wrong. The only and only reason we have to do it is because it makes complete business sense. It makes total commercial sense. So if you really look at it, the broad spectrum of things, and I would like to keep my discussion around just energy, because A, we are short of time, and also B, because it is the easiest source of decarbonization, really. I mean, power touches everyone's life, right? And everyone is able to associate it to power. Now there is a brilliant thing that has happened with the advent of renewable energy. If we look at just energy and then the advent of RE, and this brilliant thing is called decentralization, and that what it has done is it has broken the most critical data point in the conventional power value chain, which was generation. So now the generation of power is not so consolidated. I mean, it's been 10 years that this has been happening, but we've not really drilled this down and look at it the way we want to. So now you can be your own power producer. You can literally, as very basic, you can deploy a solar power plant on your rooftop, whether you're an enterprise or an individual, or maybe buy power from someone else who's doing it, who cannot necessarily be a discom, right? So we have really put an end to consolidation of energy and we've made it more distributed, right? But why am I talking about this? How is this even relevant to our topic today? Because a more relevant question and an answer to that question is again a question that now with this magic wand of decentralization, how do you think we as nations, organizations, enterprises, individuals add more value? We can be more value additive. So if you look at it, we as a community, we love cities, and I live in New Delhi. I and still happen to live here with 500 plus AQI, with with the conditions that we see every day. We have to love cities, right? Which acquire just 5% of the Earth's land mass, accommodate 50% of the world's population, and use 70% of its resources. So it is very essential that we nip the problem at source, and that is exactly the reason that why our mission back at SolarFix is to completely decarbonize the CNI sector, precisely for the very two basic reasons. One is because they have the highest contribution to emissions, and B, because they're extremely cost sensitive. So if you look at India, we are a $3 trillion economy right now. Coming back to finance and drilling this down from a macro level point of view, sir. So if you look at India from a macro level, right, we are $3 trillion economy. We're going to become a $7 trillion economy by the year 2030. Our per capita income is going to go up, which means that our power requirements are going to go up, which means that we are going to consume more refrigerators. We're going to buy more air conditioners. We're going to use more power. Our peak demand power, which is at 243 gigawatt right now, is going to go up by 366 gigawatt in the year 2030. Our established capacity is going to be at 900 gigawatt in the year 2030, which is just 427 gigawatt right now. So if you see this 500 gigawatt split, 80% of that is going to be coming from renewable energy sources. Now if you look at the challenge and the solution, right? So really it is very crucial for states, for governments to implement least cost resource adequacy, which brings in private finance, institutional finance, foreign finance, and then also planning to set up renewable energy and storage in lines with India's growth and power demand, right? And with that, I think the brilliant work that is happening. I mean, with the advent of schemes like the PM Surya Ghar Yojana, right? Which is a very, very simple and basic scheme that aims at installing solar rooftop at an ambitious 1 crore homes. Our PM has set the bar really high. I mean, pivoting from sustainability to different other schemes also. The direct benefit transfer scheme is a revolutionary and underrated scheme utilization of financial inclusion of the masses. I mean, if you track back in time, in the 1980s, the then PM Rajiv Gandhi said that out of every rupee spent by the central government of India, only 15 paisa reaches the poor. The government has truly paved a way to include the poor. Atmanirbharta is the only solution, and it is not just self-reliance, it's also looking outwards, it's also penetrating global value chains. And pivoting back to the finance question, I think there is absolutely no dearth of capital. I mean, right now, as I happen to be also late in this meeting, we were collaborating with Congo, which happens to be one of the state territories in Africa, and we happen to do this with the support of the government in West India. I mean, the government is not going to bring in institutional finance and give it just right about in your lap. What they've done is they've built in mechanisms, very specific institutions that make all of this collaborative activity within the academia, the business, and institutions like the states and governments, and bring all of them on the same page and increase credibility for all of these investments to happen and to go through. Institutionals like SECI, they guarantee off-take payments. I mean, what else as entrepreneurs you would want? If I want to work for the state of Bihar, I mean, no discounting on the state of Bihar, they're doing some amazing work in the state. But if I'm scared, if I set up a 100 megawatt project, what is the off-take recovery? What is the risk analysis? Then I would not want to. It's not going to be my first preference to go there, deploy a 100 megawatt investment, and then amortize my money over the next 15 years, say, for example. But what institutions like SECI do, they guarantee my payment, one, and they also guarantee my generation that I'm making on my plant. So whatever I'm going to produce is going to be bought. And then also it guarantees whatever I'm going to sell out of whatever I'm producing, I'm going to earn back on that. So I think I mean I I can keep talking, but I think I can also wait for another question and come back. But I think I say this with absolute responsibility that in the entire gamut of things that I mentioned, and of course all my other honorable panelists also might be talking about, I think I say this with absolute responsibility that everyone, and I mean this, that everyone deserves affordable clean power, not just some of us who can, who can afford expensive conventional power. So I think I'll pause at that, and I can probably circle back around if there's another question.
Very nice, Mr. Kapoor. But you have mixed the clean into a green also, and you are telling profit and sustainability. How are the profit can be linked with the sustainability? Have any view on that aspect? You say something right that unmute कीजिए आप.
That is a very good question. That is a very good question. So if you look at it, we are the only country in the world, Mr. Gupta, that does about 35 kilometers of roadways. We do about 12 kilometers of railways every day. We are the only country in India, in the world, that does 31 times of solar generation in the past 7 years. We are the only country in the world that does 9 airports, 3 metro cities in just 1 year. So we are doing some phenomenal and unprecedented development here. But again, circling back to your question, we are the only country in the world that has brought down the price of renewable energy from 21 rupees to 1 rupee 99 paisa,
Yes.
right? And if you really look back in the past 10 years in this entire energy industry, the domino really started to drop since 2019 and 2020. That is when the most penetration happened within the CNI sector for solar or wind, and the absolute decentralization and distribution of energies, of people going to having the choice to buy power not just from utilities but from private players, and all the private 87% of the private investment and private players that were coming into the energy industry were from renewables. So if you really look at it, why this happened is because the prices of the modules started to drop down. The prices of the modules have dropped down by more than 65% in the past 5 years, and that is when it started to make commercial sense. So if you see, your your conventional power would cost you around 8 to 9 rupees per unit for a CNI, typically in probably any state in India, right? Except if you're in Uttarakhand. And the cost of renewable energy, if you get it from someone else, or even if you deploy your own power plant, is about 2 to 4 rupees per unit, per se, just saying, in the most conventional metrics, right? So there is a 50% drop, even if you have a capex investment that's behind your power plant. If that is not unit economics, if that is not commerciality winning even in sustainability, then I don't know what is. And of course, not just that, the entire gamut of financing coming around it. I mean, looking at very basic things like SIDBI, the government imparting SIDBI the power to finance just solar rooftop plants without any collateral. I mean, that if you look at it, then it is very basic. But if you also look at it, it is very, very special. Financing MSMEs, financing micro enterprises, not just utility scale power plants. So I think the bigger question to ask would be that how do we use this commerciality within sustainability for social upliftment, for using affordable energy for the masses, for the most marginalized, for our border security, for artificial intelligence, for data mining. Because the first key of the metric is something that we have cracked. We've made sustainability a very, very commercial thing. It makes absolute business sense. I hope I answered your question.
I agree with you. I agree what you're talking about. I'm also thinking on the same line. The sustainability can be there, लेकिन at least commercialize. Commercialize should also be there to have a sustainability. Without that, it is very difficult to sustain the things. Now I'm coming to Mr. Pranay Kumar. He's Executive Director, REPL. Mr. Kumar has more than 35 years experience in project management, construction management, cost management, financial management, and management consulting in various sectors. in economic development and business model innovation in the area of interest. I think we welcome Mr. Kumar to this webinar. To major respect what we have listened to the other speakers. We are talking about Mr. Kumar, generation 50% of electricity power from renewable energy by 2030. And to achieve net zero emission by 2070. At least 45% carbon intensity immediately. Where we feel that coal sector, how the dependency of the coal can be reduced, and strategy should be adopted. You are your main consultant in various fields for that. How we can reduce the coal dependency, because that is a major aspect. To increase the renewable energy, definitely we should think in some. Have any idea on that, Mr. Kumar? Kumar sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gupta, and I'm really feel privileged to be part of this discussion. And I heard some spirited and passionate talk before me, and it was very enlightening and interesting. Coming to the part of question what you are asking, see, REPL has got over 32 years of experience in doing real estate, urban, smart cities. Personally, at my level, I have been on different parts of project management to financing, to planning for it, and rooftop to utility scale also. Coming to the question what you are asking, very interesting development has happened this year. For the first time after 1960, I will repeat, for the first time after 1960, in Q1, the power production from coal was less than 50% in the country. So naturally, it's a positive sign. But do you know that contradiction? Contradiction is 2024-25, BHEL is going to commission 60,000 megawatt, maybe 9 gigawatt they're talking about, 65,000 crore. What it indicates, that means thermal power is not reducing, it's continuing to grow.
Yes.
If thermal power is growing, then how do you see that coal consumption reducing? The other challenging part I look at it is, if you look to non-fossil fuels based energy growth, they are in double digits, 20-30%. No, it has been growing. Whereas the fossil fuel based, they've been growing 2 to 3%. But then you know that what is that another irony? Another irony is, when you try to do the legacy issues in terms of balancing fossil versus non-fossil fuel, when you're talking about the grid balancing, it was not limited to your smart grid. If you go beyond balancing the grid itself, how will you balance the grid? Because there is one set of power which is available throughout the day, night, other set of power which is fluctuating and comes certain part of the day, and you do not have that the way it is European countries where they manage with gas. Here, battery storage system or pump, storage system or pump power is also not that way developed. You have got real issue of managing this existing power utilities. That means the thermal power plant. The biggest issue, if you look to that, the challenge they are facing, which the detailed paper is there at Central Electricity Authority website, is when you use the thermal power plant at lower capacity than it is designated to. That means if it is designated to some 500 megawatt, wherein it normally operates at 65 to 70 plant load factor, and you want to throttle it to 40% or 45%. The real challenge is the station heat rate you are not able to utilize. So coal, which you are thinking to use efficiently, in fact, it creates an inefficiency in the system. So much so, you are using throttling the power production from BTG system, means boiler turbine and generator system. almost 12 to 13% inefficiency creeps in, and that much of coal consumption goes up. Not only this much, because of aging, because now you are using it intermittently, you are making effective force outage rate. As a result, your maintenance cost goes up. And as maintenance cost goes up, another 6% you are losing out. So that means when you're trying to balance with fossil fuel based with non-fossil fuels based energy, your cost of effective energy goes up. So even if you are talking about, see, there was a time when you were making green tax to coal production or even power generation. But now, because you have to manage with both energy in that industry, if you are just using fossil fuel, this coal fuel based on all this BTG, etc., the maintenance system and detailed depreciation, etc., which has been worked out, is no holding good now. So these all need to be reworked. And as a result, this rebalancing, when you talk about transition, this is also part of transition. This is also part of transition when you manage between fossil versus non-fossil, because you need to have at least some extent of fossil also. As it goes. See, as of now, coming back to coal, it is expected that coal consumption, which is continuing to grow for some time, will stabilize between 2030 to 2035 before it starts tapering out. What may happen, particularly subcritical plants will be phased out, and supercritical plant may be continuing for some more time. And existing old plants where plant load factor was already bad and it was all earlier generation, that also will phase out. You may not add same capacity. European country G7, they already have, they will not go for new power plant thermal based. India also, I think by 2030, 2035, they will also stop going for this. There will be huge. The other aspect of coal, which was very interesting, which I would like to bring to the notice of all participants here, lots of research has happened. When you transition and coal-based you phase out, what happens to society? If you look to the people who were doing in coal mining, coal transportation, coal uses, and production, steel production or pellet production and others, all this you will have to phasing. You will be phasing, right? If you phasing out, that means people who were involved in coal mining, what will they do? If you say that you will do reskilling, whether those skills are required at that location, and what more you can do. There are plus and minus both. Plus side is, in general coal production and mining, it was the male member who were involved. But in the reskilling and other requirement, you will find gender equality can come. So people there, in those economy, there is a better gender parity which will happen. But at the same time, that experience at European Union has been seen that the investment which has gone into has not created and taken out the distress from the people. Their earning level has gone down. So people, if you take just phase out coal, it is one part of it. The social economic impact is really huge. And that part also needs to be addressed, which has not been looked into in that alacrity in India yet, because still the coal consumption is going up. But by 2030, see, Coal India Limited, when it came out with their public issue, you may knowing it was one of the biggest. Just think about the organization which was one of the biggest. And if you say that you want to reduce coal consumption, see, we always feel good when we see growth. Think about it, if somebody says that you are dying every day, what will happen? So the impact will be huge, the repercussions will be really very high. And I hold at this stage telling that no, we have to be little measured in our approach when we say that this transition which is going to take place. See, because we are sitting in the organization where we take care of large infra projects. Think about our country. When people were building normal power plant, it was 60 megawatt, 120 megawatt, 220 megawatt and all. Then people went to 500 megawatt. 500 megawatt, then they went to ultra mega, 4,000 megawatt. People went to supercritical. And from there, you are suddenly telling, no, it is not required. Think about people, 2012, just to tell the people, 2012, engineering stream, people who were going to thermal power were the best paid, more than computer science graduate in that year, 2012. And just 12 years down the line, just think about it, the way scenario has changed.
Very nice, very nice. Mr. Kumar, I think you have touched a very important issue, and you are also a member of CIA Delhi panel on real estate and urban development and infrastructure. So point is, something is now talking about the green building. This concept also come. Our building construction is a green. So how you react on that? Building can also be green.
Yes, very interesting question you have asked. Before I answer that, let me also tell to you and co-panelists and others, when we talk about clean energy transition, it is not limited to solar, hydro or wind capacities. It has also energy coming from waste and biomass. It has also from nuclear power. It has also from betization of the core power plant. It is also from pump storage and BESS, and carbon capture utilization storage system, and ammonia firing, and then coming to construction and green building. Because building today is also going to, and sorry, the usage of EVs, because EVs also are using, and they are also becoming energy efficient and carbon neutral. So from all these aspects, when you look into, there are other aspects than limited to only coal and this. And when you start touching building, I'm also a civil engineer. So you tell that 85% of real estate is residential building. And residential building, still people are not even thinking about green, but for some, when you talk about green building, people have limited it to some commercial building, where office building or institutional buildings. Residential building, green, it may be in a fad, but it has not really caught up because the cost goes up. But when you talk about green, what happens in the green? Green comes because of the component which you are going to use in the building. For example, cement. How cement has been produced, how green it was. Steel, how green it was, and how it has been produced. Then if you are using aluminium, you are using glass, how green it was. In the entire value chain, if you capture the carbon, how much was the carbon footprint, including the transportation, is where you have to talk about. Not only that, in terms of construction, how much water you are using, how much of air you are polluting because of it. So that also gets into it. And then when you start operating the buildings, then also energy is, consumption comes. So much of energy that it is there, and then you take certification. Nowadays, when you talk about GREA certification or LEED certification, it is also not only in terms of at the time of construction, but also in times of operation. What is source of energy? How you are going to use it? In fact, just to give you an understanding, data center, which is a building, is known in terms of megawatt. It is not known in terms of square feet. What it indicates, essentially it uses energy. And will you believe that data centers, which in the US and many other places have come up now, people have realized that such a high intensity energy they are using, we will not give it from the conventional source. They should let them use it from solar or nuclear. So what it indicates, that eventually if you go to circular economy, all aspects of economy, whether it is building, whether it is transport, whether it is consumption, whether it is what you call logistics, everything has to be ultimately transitioning.
Very nice, very nice. So now we are talking about European countries, they're asking for a green steel.
Yes.
We want to import and give a higher price for the green steel. So everything will be green.
Just to give you one input, any retail mall, if you see their common area maintenance charges come regular charges, the major component there is of energy cost.
Okay.
And as a result, what is the source of energy they can use, and how will they do it, and what areas are required? There is lots of, in fact, asset management practices in our country will undergo a substantial change, wherein people look into these finer aspects. Yesterday or day before, I was attending another CIA workshop. It was on real estate, and they're talking about each tap, How much is the water flow? If it is can be reduced to a particular level, then only it can be considered green. If you not using a room and the light dims, then only it can be green. So it goes to every aspect of our life.
Very nice, very nice. Now I'm coming to Mr. Kalra. Kalra sir, just last few word from your side because some entrepreneur are also interested to give a last few word from your advice to them. Have any advice to our entrepreneurs who are listening to you for this solar power or something like that? Mr. Kalra, only few words. Any your last advice to these people?
Uh, Solar or renewable, it is the fuel of the future, and it is going to advance much further with technology. As Ms. Shipra also pointed out, that AI is going to play a major role in scheduling, in scheduling consumption, demand side management. All those factors are going to come into play. Multiple chemistries are being tested out in the market: lithium ion, lithium ferrophosphate, sodium ion. And I have this feeling that every chemistry will find its way, will find its end use in some way or the other. And a lot of hybrids are coming up: wind solar hybrid, wind solar with BESS hybrid. All these things are coming up. It is a very, very big industry now. It is going to go multifold coming down the line. And people should enter into this industry. You can make a mark anywhere. I mean, there's a huge plethora of options that you can work out on. Like Mr. Price working on the financial aspect of this industry. Ankit is working on, again, I believe it's similar to EPC or structures. I'm not pretty sure, but somewhere on those lines. And Pranay ji is also into infrastructure, and I think into power plants, project management, and all those things. So all the panelists here are somewhere or the other will very independently integrated into the industry. And there are thousands of more options available, and people should very, very strongly consider this. I mean, if you're looking for future growth, this is the place to be.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Now I'm coming to Ankit. Ankit Kapoor, sir. Last few words, sir, for our.
Sure. I think if I say this in one line and then also in a couple of other lines, that you say that they say that you go to the party, right, or bring the party to your home. So I think the party in the world is happening in India right now. Why? Because you got to, the PM has said that you've got to become Viksit by the year 2047, right? And if you do a little bit of data mining before behind that, then you are a $4 trillion economy. You have to become a $30 trillion economy, which means your GDP has to grow 9 times, your per capita income has to grow 8 times, and your manufacturing has to grow 16 times. That's the challenge in front of us. But as I said, we happen to be the only country that achieved its Paris commitment 9 years ahead. We did 200 gigawatt. We are the only country that bought 400 million LED bulbs at just 15% of its original price. What I'm trying to say here is that the biggest financial institutions, International Monetary Fund, the World Bank, Bill Gates said that if you want to move from a fossil fuel to a green fuel, then you have got to pay a green premium. But India demonstrated that only by using it, your sheer size and scale, you do not have to pay a green premium, but you can get things at a green discount. And if you think left, right, if you just see what the top things that are happening in the world right now, that global value chains are disrupted. There's a war that's happening in Europe since 3 years, and there's an advent of new technology that's totally unprecedented, like AI, machine learning, new large language models, right? So there's this great opportunity, I think, around all of us, and we happen to be the most opportune people, that we are living in this Amrit Kal, and we happen to, penetrate global value chains by benchmarking, competing, excelling, and finally acing. So we have to understand, and as I said in the initial question, that for anything to make commercial, for anything to sell, it has to make commercial sense, no matter how green or clean it is. But the larger question in front of us is that how do we use this commercial sustainability for upliftment of social societies and upliftment of communities? So I think it is the best time to be in this industry, and there has been no better industry or better time to be at right now. Thank you.
Very nice, sir. Now, Madam Roongta.
I would always say that, we should aim for Viksit Bharat, and we need not to be, let's say we need not to be any EPC, you need not to be a chartered accountant, you need not to be, anyone. You need not to be an illiterate also. I would say you don't require any degree. If you can't go for any plant setup, it's perfectly fine. You can have that small, I would say, CBG plant, which can at least makes sense, wherein you can use that raw biogas for your own kitchen. You have all those different small organizations are there. Specifically, if I say in Uttar Pradesh, there are villages who have started taking this initiative. If we talk about Behel, I mean the Behel BHL, if you talk about this, which sir also pointed out, even they have started this co-firing, which is like renewable plus coal is there. So everyone is taking that step for green energy. Everyone is making their contribution for this, I would say, Viksit Bharat, specifically, I would say renewables. Why? Because if you enter into renewables, definitely solar, wind, CBG, biomass briquettes, anything, they would create jobs nothing less than 9 lakhs a decade. And of course, they would be generating millions and millions of green jobs. So it would be something that you can quickly go for it. You can go for a plant, you can go for, let's say, in your own houses, you can go for jobs in this industry. But yes, India's push for solar manufacturing under production link in the incentive is there with us. Mr. Gadkari, he is now promoting green hydrogen, which is, I think, very quickly you would find it something more interesting to come up. So, renewable is a cornerstone in India's Viksit Bharat. So, driving sustainable development, reducing poverty, fostering innovations. And by 2047, yes, even I expect the same that surely India would definitely be at a different stage.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Kumar. Kumar, sir.
Yeah. See, definitely we are in a very promising time, and I join my thoughts along with my co-panelist that when India is going to become Viksit Bharat, and then so much of changes are taking place, energy always becomes the key parameter. If you, I heard Ankit was talking about some African country. If you look to African country also, out of those countries, the country which had access to energy were growing faster. So energy is the key by which you can move, you can convert, you can produce, you can travel. So naturally, in case you can be in the area of energy, and that to transition of energy, you are in that gold mine.
Very nice, very nice. At the end, on behalf of the Resurgent India, I express my gratitude toward all the eminent speakers, Mr. Kumar, Mr. Kalra, Madam Roongta, and Shri Kapoor sir, who is very practical, who given all the answer, all the questions, which I think it is beneficial for our entrepreneurs who are listening to this. Because our association is more than 400 members with us who are in different field, as in financial sector, as an entrepreneur also. I think this webinar, I feel it will be useful to them. I am only request the participant. They can raise some question for that. I think unfortunately I could not have any question. It appears that whatever our eminent speaker talked, I think they are digested by them. No question from their side. Still, if any question from them, please write to us to Resurgent India or give your honest feedback, which will be useful for us for our future references and future holding the webinar. It webinar was held on the request of our members. So we feel that we have justified by utilizing this time of 1.5 hours with you, discussion and interacting with all the eminent speakers. As a Resurgent India, we are a merchant banker, we are investment banker. We are also giving training to the banker. We are mostly knowledge partner with all the chambers. This webinar is held jointly by CIA with the Resurgent India. I'm thankful to CIA officials also who are with us try to associate, coordinate with us to have such webinar. And their help is required for our frequent holding this webinar in respect of different subject, whether infrastructure we are talking about, or we are talking about the SME sector, or any other sector, which real estate we are also talking about. So that is beneficial to them. So I'm also thankful to my off the screen, who is the main architect of this webinar, Shri Devesh Sharma, who is a senior manager of research in India, and Mr. Ayush Chaudhary, and Mr. Lokesh, and Mr. Chaudhary, who had drafted this program, who drafted our talking points, who is taken a trouble to draft the agenda item. Only we are a translator to them. Thank you, my team of Research in India, who is off the screen. I'm thankful to these people so that with their efforts, so we tried to do something for our members, for our entrepreneurs, even for the bankers also, who are also attending such webinar. They are also appreciating our webinars and our feedback from the eminent speakers. With this word, I'm thankful to all the eminent speakers, especially to the participants. And I only request the participant, please give us your feedback so that it can improve. If any some deficiency is there, we try to improve that also. Thank you very much. Thank you for that behind the program. Thank you very much. Thanks, sir. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.